It's interesting, you know, when the secular media, secularists come to the Creation Museum and they want to interview me, mostly their questions are about the age of the earth, and mostly they're scoffing. So they come here, they don't really ask questions about evolution and what the museum's about. The first thing they do is they say, why do you believe in a young age for the earth? Why do you believe that dinosaurs lived in recent times and did live millions of years ago? It's usually always about the age of the earth. It's interesting, whenever they do articles in secular newspapers, you'll often see where they say, oh, something about the Ark or the Creation Museum. This is the group headed by Ken Ham that believes in a young earth and that dinosaurs live with people and they don't believe in millions of years. They always seem to want to categorize us that way, as if believing in a young earth means these people are nuts. Okay, that's how they want to portray it. You see, secularists believe in millions of years, and they have to. You know why they have to? Because how do you get people to believe in an impossible process, because you don't see one kind of animal changing into another today, you don't see life producing new information to go into our genes, you don't see matter producing life by natural processes, you don't see any of that, right? We can categorize all the animals and plants we see into particular groups and families in our classification system. Evolution is an impossible process. How do you get people to believe in an impossible process? You have to get people to believe in an incomprehensible amount of time. Because if you believe in an incomprehensible amount of time, given enough time, all the little changes we see, oh, they'll add up to the big changes for evolution. The reason you don't see it? Oh, because it takes millions of years. And it's interesting, back in 1954, George Wald, an American biochemist who received the Nobel Prize, said this: time is the hero of the plot. What we regard as impossible on the basis of human experience is meaningless here. Given so much time, the impossible becomes possible, the possible probable, the probable virtually certain. One only has to wait. Time itself performs the miracles. And so, really, for the secularists, time is one of their gods, because it performs the miracles. And I'm going to say to you, and I already did a session on this week, on Tuesday, when we talked about one blood, one race, and did a section on genetics. You can have all the time you want, but you will never find an example where matter produces brand new information to get added into the genome, because natural selection, adaptation, acts on the genetic diversity already present in living creatures. You never see new information being generated to evolve one kind into another. You can have all the time in the world, and you'll never see matter generating an information system and a language system. I'll talk about that tomorrow, that we have in DNA. And so time doesn't help, but in people's minds, if you've got enough time, anything can happen. And that's why it's interesting. You take people like Richard Dawkins, that famous atheist, and I've seen people interviewed by him and seen him on panels and so on. If you say to him you don't believe in evolution, you don't believe people came from ape-like creatures, he'll mock you and say, oh yeah, but you know, you're wrong, and so on. But you tell him you believe in a young earth, a young universe, and you reject millions of years, he'll go berserk. Almost becomes emotionally unstable. Because they have got to believe in millions of years. If you don't, see, think about it. If they don't have millions of years, they can't propose their evolutionary ideas. That's why they have to cling to millions of years regardless. And so we make no apology about the fact that we believe the earth is only thousands of years old. In fact, I believe about 6,000 years old. Now, people say to me, where do you get the 6,000 from? Because you don't open up the Bible and it says the earth is 6,000 years old. You're right, the Bible doesn't give a date for creation. If it did, that'd be a problem. You know why that'd be a problem? Because the Bible was completed 2,000 years ago. So if it gave a date for creation, it means the Bible would have a mistake in it and it would be fallible. Right? But the Bible does give us a very specific history where we can actually calculate the age of the universe. The Bible tells us God made everything in 6 days. Stop right there for a moment. Herein lies a major problem. People say, but those days could be millions of years. Those days could be long periods of time. Okay, well, just put that aside for the moment. If those days really were 6 24-hour days, if God actually created in 6 24-hour days, and on day 6 he made Adam, And then we learn, as we read in the genealogies there, like in Genesis 5, we learn that Adam had a son, Seth, at 130, and then Seth fathered Enosh at 105, and Enosh fathered Kenan at 90, and Kenan fathered, I don't know how to pronounce it, Mahalalel or whatever it is, at 70, and then he fathered Jared at 65, and Jared fathered Enoch at 162, and Enoch fathered Methuselah at 65, Methuselah fathered Lamech at 107, Lamech fathered Noah at 182, and so it goes on. And you've got those very specific genealogies, and you can add up all the dates. And when you do, and you get to Noah, the flood, and then you get to Abraham, and from Abraham to Christ, and then from the babe in a manger at that time to today, it adds up to about 6,000 years. So that's where we get the age of the earth from. Okay, the Bible gives us a very specific history. You know what? You know why that history is there, by the way? To show that we're all descendants of Adam. To show that God protected the seed of the woman that he promised in Genesis 3:15, so the Savior would come when God stepped into history to be a man, to die on a cross and be raised from the dead. It's to show that God fulfills his promises and to show the real history and that we're all descendants of Adam and Eve. So that history is very important. By the way, some people will say to you, oh yeah, but in the New Testament, those genealogies have gaps in them. Well, of course they do in the New Testament. They're only summaries in the New Testament. You've got to go to the Old Testament to get the specific genealogies and the details. So if those days are 6 ordinary days, and that history is true, then the age of the earth and the universe, starting from the Bible, is 6,000 years.